We know some of the most powerful advocates in our community are the young people. Anna, you spent a lot of your young life advocating for HD. You are often the youngest person on a lot of conversations in ad board like HD Cope. What impact has sitting on ad boards and advocating for HD, especially at such a young age, has had on your HD journey? Second part of the question. If there is someone in the room who has a child who wants to be involved in advocacy or has a child who's expressed wanting to get involved at a very young age, what positive and negatives should they be aware of?
Just gonna warn you now, I might cry on this one. So like I said, I found out about HD when I was about 7, and we, being like my parents and I, did fundraisers in elementary school. I remember just having a jar that kids put pennies in, and that's what the fundraiser was. And my middle school and high school, I think I wanted to understand HD more. So every science project I got a chance to, I would make it about HD, and I've heard that a million times in this community. Every art project, if I could twist art into telling a story about my dad, then I did. Every essay I could, college essay and all of those things, it was part of me processing what was going on, and also telling my story and rewriting my story over and over until I got to a point that I knew more of who I was separate from my dad. Because at a young age, you're telling the story of how your parents' HD is impacting you. But as you get older, it turns into your own story. And you have to learn how to explain that into every time you talk to someone, whether it's in the community or on a plane, you have to figure out what you're telling them and what you're not telling them and navigating that. So that was practice for that. And I think that was great. My dad never cared that I shared his story, it bothered him, so I was always grateful for that. But I know other family members who might have been a little bit more hesitant about talking about HD didn't love that I was on a podcast. You have to, I think, explore that and figure out what you're comfortable with over time. And as a parent or a person with a young child or a young adult who wants to do this, I think it's a form of self-expression, and I think it's crucial to have that ability to be able to do that and support when you can, but also knowing that a lot of kids don't want to go that route. And so being able to balance both of those, if you have more than one child or other family members that are impacted. And I wanted to go back to the ad board question, because it's been hard. So I've been a part of HD Cope since when they first hit, and I was recently out of testing at that point. So my testing experience was still very emotional for me, and being the only, since 2018, and still, I am the only person in that room that is gene positive and under 30 out of a pretty big group of people. And we meet with pharma and we have discussions, and they're amazing, but it feels like that the weight of this entire group is on my shoulders as an individual, and I can't speak for everyone's experience. And I'm looking at people in this room that have completely different experiences that deserve to be in that space and talking to those people as well. So I would just encourage anyone who's comfortable or even interested in the slightest to tell your story, whether it's through writing, through podcast, through something like an ad board or a meeting with the FDA. Try it out, because we need your voices, and we need young voices to help uplift our research. And
I think this is our last one. It goes to all three of you guys. So one at a time. We hear from people when they come to these events, they are looking for community, support, hope, through research and the clinical trial talks, but most of all, they seek out tools for their toolbox that they may need right now, or they may need in the future navigating their journey of HD. If you can give us a couple of examples of something, of tools that people should have in their toolbox that they're going to learn today, what would it be?
I think number one is having at least one person that in your mind is dedicated as like your go-to person at any point. So whether that's a partner or a friend, someone who's not affiliated with the HD community at all, social worker, just naming in your mind your one go-to person for everything. Two, kind of goes back to some of the other things I said earlier of maintaining your self-identity and the things that you enjoy. So really taking, even if it's a moment of time to practice self-care or maintain hobbies that you have, or just doing something you enjoy, and really like having that at least one thing that you can always go back to, even if your mind is scrambled with everything. And then three, I think, Jamie, I think maybe both of you have pointed to this, but not being afraid to reach out for anything and not being afraid to ask for help.
I think the three most important tools in your toolbox would be, one, to continue to educate yourself in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you don't do big crowds well and traveling to conferences like this is not your thing, that's A-okay. You can watch things. We have HGTV, we have live, we have the Post, we have these on our Facebook. There's several other organizations out there. Just arming yourself with education so that you can make the most educated decisions for yourself, as we're all our own experts of ourselves. And so to stay educated helps you to make those decisions for yourself and your loved ones and your families. The second one is, I think, to give yourself grace in whatever you're feeling and you're going through. This is a community that loves and embraces one another, but we all have had different thresholds of tragedy and hardships that we have faced. And in some ways, it can give us gratitude for what we have going on when we hear about what other people have going on. But in other ways, I think sometimes we silence ourselves and deny ourselves our own feelings as we're trying to process through things, thinking that we're not deserving of that because it's not at a crisis like someone else. So to have your safe space, like Anna mentioned, to go to process that stuff is important. And the third thing I would say is to, where you can, practice serving and mindfulness in that. And I don't mean you have to be on an ad board if you're not comfortable with that. It can be something very small. It can be something a little bit larger. But when we serve, we get out of what's going on a little bit, and it gives us an ability to just, I don't know, decompress in a way. As many caregivers are servers, I know I served my daddy until the very end, but other acts of service too, making sure we spend a little bit of time on a phone call with a friend or community organizations that we're a part of. Maybe it's caring for a pet that you love or plants. It doesn't have to be big, just something small. It just helps ground you during the day.
It's a ball one. So you're gonna need a really big toolbox because you guys like nailed everything. But I think a couple things to take away from today is have those hard conversations. I'm like queen of hard, difficult conversations and love being uncomfortable with people. So if you need some help, I'm happy to advise. People in my life hate me for that, but have them, right? Because no one else is gonna have them. They're gonna weigh on you more than you realize. So bringing those conversations up to your loved ones or to family or friends, advocating for yourself and advocating for your loved ones. There's no doctor or scientist that knows your loved one. Remember, like we said, every person impacted by HD is different. You've seen one person with HD, you've only seen one person with HD, right? Remember, you are their biggest advocate. You are their specialist, right? You know them better than the doctor does, and remember that, right? And you hold that power. And I think last would be just to stay present. There's so much fear of unknown with HD that it's hard sometimes to just be in the present moment and be grateful for that.